Hey everyone, Mr. Macintosh here, and OpenCore Legacy Patcher's got a brand new update available, 0.5.3. In this video, I'm going to go over all the changes and fixes in this release, along with going over a brand new feature in macOS Ventura called Rapid Security Response that we need to talk about before installing the 13.2 update in the future, because there's some issues right now in the beta. We're also going to go over some news with the non-metal support for macOS Ventura that you've been asking about, along with going over whether it's safe to install the macOS Big Sur 11.7.2 update, the macOS Monterey 12.6.2 update, and then finally a live demo you've been asking for this on how to install a macOS Ventura update and update the OpenCore Legacy Patcher app. We got a lot to cover. Let's jump in and get started. Let's first go over some of the main issues that are fixed in the 0.5.3 update. First of all, resolves support regression on certain pre-2012 machines. Now, a lot of you already reached out to me about this. You said to me, after I installed the 0.5.3 update, my sound or my speakers wouldn't work anymore. So let's take a look at that on our Monterey test box here. So if we open up system preferences and we go to sound, and then we go to output, you should always see the internal speakers here or speakers. For those users, they didn't see this in here at all, so they couldn't use the speaker. And the good news is that's resolved in 0.5.3, so if this happened to you, all you need to do is install the OpenCore Legacy Patcher app for 0.5.3 and then install the latest OpenCore version and your speakers will be fixed. Again, this is only for certain models for 2011 and under. The next issue here resolves a Windows server crashing on KDK less installs with 13.2 with the rapid security response updates. So let's talk about that. So what is a rapid security response update and why is it important to you? Well, first of all, it's only compatible with macOS Ventura 13.2 or newer, so it's in beta right now. And you need to understand how this works because there's actually a few issues with it right now on the 13.2 beta. First of all, a rapid security response is how you can get important security update improvements to your devices even faster. This isn't a standard software update. These improvements can be applied automatically between normal updates. Let's use an example that a big vulnerability comes out to Safari. Instead of Apple waiting until the next release in a month or two, they can send out this rapid security response update to just update Safari. So let's take a closer look at that in the platform security deployment guide. Rapid security responses that involve an operating system fix require a device restart, but rapid security responses that involve a Safari fix only require you to quit the app. If they fix Safari, you don't have to restart your whole computer or install a huge macOS Ventura update just to patch Safari. So this is a really nice system. So what does that look like when you get one of these updates? So this is what you're going to see when one of the updates come through. macOS Rapid Security Response 13.2a will be applied to Safari next time you quit and reopen the app and will be applied to the system next time you restart. So this particular update included Safari fixes and a system update, so you have to restart Safari first or just reboot and both of them will be applied. Now those settings are actually inside software updates, so you can click at this little about window here and you can see install security responses and system files. Most systems are installing this okay, but some of the Haswell Macs and Macs that have an AMD GPU that require the KDK download, they are having some issues right now and they're working through that, and it might even be fixed by the next update. But this is where you would turn on and off that, and I recommend keeping them on. But the best part about this is, let's say you install this and something goes wrong, you will be able to actually uninstall it, remove security response updates. Let's say that you install this to your system and something went wrong, you can actually remove it to from your system after installing. So that's a really great feature. The next issue was if you are in macOS Monterey and you were trying to use AirPlay to Mac, that wasn't working properly, and that was fixed in 0.5.3. And then there was also an issue with a power management kernel panic if you were trying to boot into safe mode. Some of the other issues listed in this release, there was one where there was a silent auto patcher crash when a new OpenCore Legacy Patcher version was available, and I worked with Makola on this and we were able to figure that out. And what I'll show you is that after you install a macOS update on your Mac, after it would come back up, it would have to install the root patches again. And this is the message box that you should see, saying that OpenCore app has detected that you're not running with the root patches. Let's apply them now. And that was not coming up if your version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher was one or more steps behind. It was crashing. So that is resolved now. So once you update to 0.5.3, that issue is fixed. There was another issue where the application was crashing if there was a KDK version fallback and the primary site was down. So first of all, it downloads the kernel debug kit directly from Apple. And if that fails, there's a backup server that it can reach in case there's a problem. And it can also reach a local version on the Mac if there's a problem. And that's been fixed with this update. Now, there was also a versioning issue when there is an Rapid Security Response update installed. So let's take a closer look at that. The good news is if you have a Rapid Security Response update installed, you can actually see a change to the build version. So if we go back to our terminal here and type in swverge, we can see that, first of all, there's a new product version extra, and it's A. We now know that there's a Rapid Security Response update installed on this Mac, and the build version number has changed to reflect that. So that's new in 13.2 beta. The next thing I want to talk about is macOS Ventura support in OpenCore Legacy Patcher for 2012 to 2016 Macs and 2011 non-Metal Macs lower. First of all, let's talk about supported machines. If you are on macOS Big Sur or on macOS Monterey and you're thinking about making the jump to macOS Ventura, take a look at this page first that is really well detailed, that goes over all of the current issues that are known right now with macOS Ventura on certain machines and some of the issues that have already been fixed. So if you see an issue here, you can come to this page and I'll put it in the description here on something that might not be working for you. Just hold on macOS Big Sur or Monterey. There's no rush right now to go to Ventura unless you really need it, but you can use this guide to decide whether you should make the jump or not. I've been working with it. It's been working really well. There's been some questions about continuity camera and stuff like that. That's on hold right now. It only really works on 2016 Macs right now, but that's kind of like a lower priority. Main priority is what we want to talk about next, and that is non-Metal Mac support in macOS Ventura. So now let's talk about non-Metal Macs from 2011 lower, meaning that your Mac does not have a Metal compatible graphics card in it. And this includes Mac Pro 5,1 and lower. There's been some breakthroughs on some of the issues that have been preventing macOS Ventura for these devices, but there's still a couple of issues that still need to be resolved. But it's great to see that there's been some real big wins behind this. And again, a couple of weeks, or it could still take a month or two or even more, depending on how hard these issues are to get figured out. And it's better to be vague on this stuff. It's in active development and they're working really hard to get that going, and as soon as it's available for testing, you bet I'll let you know about it. Now let's first go over, is it safe to install the macOS Big Sur 11.7.2 update on this test Mac here, which is a 2011 15-inch MacBook Pro. First of all, the install went okay, except for a small issue. Remember, when you are installing macOS Big Sur updates or Monterey updates, Safari is a separate software update. So when you click on here, you'll see that there's two updates listed there. And when you click install now, it'll download and install Safari. Then it'll install the software update for Big Sur and Monterey. With this particular machine, the update for the 11.7.2 did not install properly. So I got a message when I came back up saying that the install did not install, and I had to download it and do it again. Hopefully this is a fluke, but that's why I test these to make sure everything is going okay. And if you're worried about that, I always recommend doing a Time Machine backup before you make the jump to the next update, even for supported devices. So if something goes wrong, you're always properly prepared. Now let's talk about the macOS Monterey 12.6.2 update. This update for Safari 16.2 and the macOS Monterey update installed perfectly on this test box, which is a 2012 15-inch MacBook Pro non-Retina unit. There was no issues on 0.5.3 installation. The only thing I wanted to touch on, I mentioned this in the previous video, if you see the macOS Ventura upgrade, do not upgrade through software update. Remember, software updates like macOS Monterey 12.6 to 12.6.2 is fully supported in the software update pane, but major upgrades like jumping to Monterey or macOS Ventura is not supported. You have to go into the OpenCore Legacy Patcher if you want to upgrade, create the installer on a USB, boot to it, and install the upgrade through the recovery environment. That is the supported way by the developers. Okay, a lot of you have been asking for this, and it is a full walkthrough on how to install the latest version of macOS Ventura software update, and a walkthrough on how to update the OpenCore Legacy Patcher application, OpenCore on your internal hard drive, and install the post-volume patches after. The first thing we want to do is, again, I talk about macOS backups all the time because I want you to keep your data safe. If you have data on the system, just back it up before the software update, and I even recommend that to a support Unsupported Mac user, because again, you don't want to be that person that has a very small percentage chance of having a problem. And I recommend using Time Machine. So you can find Time Machine in the applications folder, and all you need to do is start up Time Machine and click back up now to your USB drive. So if something goes wrong, all your data is right there. So once that's taken care of, what we want to do next is check to see if there's a software update available. And the good thing is your OS always checks every day if there's a software update available. And you can see that there's a 1 here in system settings, and that means you have something waiting for you. So let's click on it and see what it needs. There's a software update available. Now, if you don't see this, you can still check by clicking on General and then Software Update right here to just do a manual check right away. We have a software update available, and it's macOS Ventura 13.1. If you want to see more information about it, just click on More Info and then click on the update itself, and you'll see all the changes and fixes in this release. The other thing I wanted to mention is that some people, and I've mentioned this in the past, have used the workaround of reverting the root patches to get a smaller update. Do not do that on macOS Ventura and newer, because that is not supported by the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers. Install the full 11 gigabyte update. So now that you see that you have an update available, the first thing we want to do is update the OpenCore Legacy Patcher application before we install the software update. So let's do that now. We'll go to Applications or click on Finder to get here. And then inside we'll see our OpenCore Legacy Patcher application, and we'll open it up. The first thing it's going to do is check for updates. And right off the bat, it says that we are on version 0.5.0, and there's a brand new version 0.5.3 available. View on GitHub. And we're going to download the latest version. So all now we have to do is scroll down here to the Assets section and download OpenCore-Patcher-GUI AppZip. So let that download. Let's go back here, and I wanted to talk about this message here. When it says go to the GitHub, and there's a reason why it's not automatically installed, is because it's a way for you to take a look up here to see if there's any major issues. And that's what I always recommend before updating to the latest version of OpenCore or installing a macOS Ventura update. And this will save you time in the future in case there's an issue. So let's go back and take a look at an example of that. If we go back to 0.5.0, there was an issue here for AMD machines. Warning, if you have a Mac with an AMD GPU, note that Apple recently broke our kernel debug kit downloader, and you're gonna have to do a workaround. Now, if you saw this and you wanted to hold, if you had one of these machines, you could hold until the next version came out where it was fixed, or you could do the walk around. But that's why I mentioned to go here, take a look at the patch notes, and make sure that your machine isn't included in any kind of issues. As long as you see that's clear after a couple of days, you feel free to download it and continue on. So now that we're clear there, we have our OpenCore Legacy Patch application in the downloads folder right now waiting for us. Before we have to do that, we have to close the current version. So we'll go up to OpenCore, quit OpenCore Patcher, and then we'll open up our applications folder so we can drag it right over. So all you need to do is click on our downloads folder here, just drag it right over here to our applications folder. And you'll see this message saying there's already a version in there. Yes, we do want to replace it with the latest version. We'll go back to applications, and we'll have the latest version of OpenCore Patcher installed in our system. That's only step 1. Step 1 is installing the latest version of the application. Step 2 is installing the OpenCore settings to your internal hard drive. So let's take a look at that next. So as you can see, we're on 0.5.3. Let's take a look at the OpenCore. Remember, the OpenCore are the boot settings that are used to boot your Mac up when it first starts. To find out the version of OpenCore that is on your system, we can run a command. I'm going to put this in the description below, and it is nvram, and it'll check for the OpenCore version. So run this, and you can see that we're on OpenCore version, release number 085, and the date is an older version installed with 0.5.0. It's a SW version, and you can see that's where we're on the initial release of macOS Ventura. And again, you don't have to check for this, but the idea is that you can check to make sure that you're not an older release, and you can check after we install those settings that you are on the latest release. What is the latest release? Well, we can go back to our releases page, scroll down, and check the change log, and we can scroll down here for the binaries version, and then we're on 087 is the latest version of OpenCore release. When we are done, after installing to our internal hard drive, this should say 087. So let's move to that next. So now that we're in the app, we want to install the latest version of OpenCore to our internal hard drive. So let's go into settings, and if you had any of these settings set, set them now. One place that people have been getting confused at is that they say, I turned off Show Boot Picker and it's still turned on. What's wrong? Remember, these settings are default every single time you open up the application. They don't show you what the current settings are right now. When you come in here, you're going to have to turn it off even though it's off again, because whatever you set here will be set for the next settings that you're going to be able to create for patching to your internal hard drive. We don't want to show the boot picker, for example. Now that's set in the settings, we're going to click return to main menu, and now we can build those settings that we just set in the settings to our temporary location on our hard drive to build. And there it is. They're built to this location, and now we're going to take these settings and install them to our internal hard drive. So we're going to click install to disk. We'll click on that next, and then we'll click on EFI. We'll type in our administrator password. You can see it mounted the EFI and ejected it. And now all we need to do is reboot. We're not going to do that yet though, because we're going to click ignore. We're going to go back to the main menu and we're going to install the latest version of the post install root patches. Now let's click on post install root patch. And you can see that these patches are available for our system. The version of root patches that are on our system now are 0.5.0, and it's saying you can install the latest version of 0.53 post volume patches right now. And look, the last time we patched right here, 0.5.0 back in October 27th of 2022. So let's start that root patching. Let's relaunch this root, type in our administrator password. This is why I picked this particular machine, because this machine needs the kernel debug kit to be able to install for the graphics acceleration on this particular device. So that checked and made sure that the version is good to go, and that's it. Now we're ready to reboot. Let's click on reboot and then we'll click on restart. Okay, we're back up after installing the latest version of OpenCore to our hard drive and installing the post volume root patches for 0.5.3. Now let's check the versions to make sure that they installed properly. So we'll go open our terminal app again and run that command that we did before. And there we go, 087. 12/6/2022. So we are on the latest version of 0.53. And now let's check the post install root patches to make sure that they are installed properly, and they should be. So open up the OpenCore Legacy Patcher app, click on post install root patch, and there we go. Look at that. All the patches are already installed, and you can see that they were last patched with 0.53 on today, December 20th. So we are good to go. Now we are ready to install the macOS Ventura software update. Okay, now we're ready to install the latest version of macOS Ventura and software update. All we need to do is open up the new System Settings app, and then we'll click on General, and then Software Update. And we'll give it a second here to check for updates. And there it is, macOS Ventura 13.1. You can click on more info if you want to learn more about it, and you can see all the fixes that are in this update. Now remember, like I mentioned before early in the video, you do not want to revert the patches to get the smaller update. With macOS Ventura, you got to install the full 11 gigabyte update. So now let's click install now and agree. It's immediately going to start to download. You'll see the progress meter here on how much it's downloading, and then it's going to move to a preparing phase of the update. And when the preparing phase is done, it'll ask to reboot the system, and that's where we'll pick up after the installation of the update, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back up after installing the Ventura 13.1 update, and you'll notice something right off the bat. You'll see that the transparency is gone from the login window and the resolution is different. And that's because we still need to install the post-install root patches, and let's log in to get that started. You should see this message like we talked about earlier in the video pop up saying you need to install the post root volume patch. If you don't see this message after about a minute or two, you'll have to open up the OpenCore Legacy Patcher app and then click on post install root patches and install it manually. But since we have the auto patcher ready to go, we'll click on OK. We'll enter in an administrator password. And one of the things that it's going to do, again, if you have a Haswell or an AMD-based Mac on Ventura, it's going to download the latest version of the kernel debug kit. Since we're on 13.1 now, and there's a brand new version of the KDK kit for 13.1, it's going to download it directly from Apple, install it, and then it'll install the post-root patches, and then we'll reboot. As you can see here, we've got graphics Haswell here and the AMD Legacy GCN, and it's going to install the KDK, and then it'll move on to the next phase. Okay, there we go. The KDK is successfully installed. And again, this can take a little bit of time to do that. Now it's going to move on with installing the post-volume root patches. Okay, the kernel cache is rebuilt. Now it's finishing. We've got our reboot message here. We'll click on reboot, and then we will click on restart. Back up after the reboot, and as you can see, we've got our transparency back and our resolutions fixed. So it looks like our post-install root patches have installed successfully. Let's log in to double check. We will open up our OpenCore Legacy Patcher application, and we'll click on Post Install Root Patch, and there we go. All patches are already installed. Root volume last patch 053 on December 21st, 2022. We are good to go. Our macOS Monterey system is back up and running on the latest version. Okay, before we go, one final warning on the macOS Ventura Future 13.2 update and the rapid security responses. So again, remember in those system settings, I was showing you setting for the rapid security response. You click on this eye here once you get installed for update, and you can see the install security responses and system files. Now remember what we said earlier is that if you have one of these Macs with Haswell or AMD graphics, you'll see your machine on the list. These are the machines that are having issues with the rapid security response. If you are thinking of installing the 13.2 beta or installing the update in the future when it comes out, wait until you see the news whether the developers have been able to fix the rapid security responses on these models before you install 13.2. Because remember, the problem is that these are set to install automatically. So let's say you update to 13.2, you won't even get a chance to turn it off because in the background within a couple hours, maybe even, this will install automatically and then prompt you to reboot. If you click reboot and this issue is not fixed, your machine will not boot properly. So again, this is a final warning really quick for these issues, and maybe even by the time 13.2 comes out, this has already been figured out. But if you're thinking about testing the beta, caution. So again, keep an update if you have one of these machines and you're thinking about 13.2 with the rapid security response. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, a thumbs up or a share would be much appreciated. If you want to be able to see more videos like this in the future, you can click on that Mr. Macintosh logo to subscribe. If you want to follow me for the latest Mac news on Twitter and on Mastodon, and especially a big shout out to all my Patreon members. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.